Hi, my name is Beth, and I am a programming assistant with the St. Johns County Public Library System. And you are watching St. John's Reads Oil Pastels with Kasha. St. John's Reads is our annual One Book, One Community program. This year we're featuring The Library Book by Susan Orlean, and we will have all kinds of really interesting, fun programming throughout the month of January that you can stream on our website, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. I'm here today with local artist Kasha Fahy, who is going to teach us how to create a beautiful local landscape scene using oil pastels. This is in celebration of not just St. John's Reads, the library book, but also in celebration of St. Johns County's 200th anniversary that's happening in 2021. So that's quite a big birthday. We're happy to celebrate, and we're so grateful to the Barbara K. Foundation for giving the St. Johns County Public Library System a grant that has enabled us to bring classes like these to you. So let's go ahead and meet Kasha.
Hi, I'm Kasha Fahy. I'm so excited to be teaching a architecture oil pastel class today, honoring our local original public library in St. Augustine. I'm a graphic designer for a golf cart company, and I've been working with the library to do art classes now, I think for 3 or 4 years now at least.
Okay, Kasha, so what do we need to take this class?
We'll be using a white sheet of paper. You can get this 8.5 by 11 at the store. You can use copy paper or you can use oil pastel paper. You can find this online at Hobby Lobby, AC Moore's, or Amazon. We're going to be using our colored pastels. Now, some of these would be distributed by the library. There's going to be a limited amount of packets available, so first come, first serve, but we're very excited to have that ability. And then again, you can also find those at local art stores. And then this will be a downloadable template. They'll be broken into 4 different parts that can get utilized to be able to do the drawing today.
That's right. So we'll have the templates available on our website and also in the description for the class on Facebook and YouTube. And I would like to thank the Barbara K. Foundation for giving the St. Johns County Public Library System a grant that would allow us to give out supplies while supplies last. So thanks, Kasha. Let's go ahead and get started.
So what we're first going to be using is our full architecture template. What I'm doing is I'm placing this in the top right-hand corner. I'm making sure that basically the top of the building aligns with the top of the pages. And I'm going to be using a lighter yellow to just do the base. And what I'm doing is I'm tracing around the outside. It's totally okay if you go over your template that you print out, drawn out. So what I'm basically doing is going around and doing all the outsides. And again, you can use any color that you want, but I'm just using yellow, because that is the base of what you can see for the building. And so I've gone in and I've done all of the outside of the building. And now what I'm going to do is go in and do all of the windows that you can see that we did cut out. So part of this is for the template. You have these windows that we're going to be using. So make sure on your end that you cut these out. You can do that with scissors or an X-Acto knife. Okay, so now that I have all of this traced out, I'm going to go over one extra line just to be sure. You can see that we basically have the framework of our library put together. Now, our next steps is I wanted to make sure that we have the ability to kind of separate these two building like aesthetics. So what I'm doing is I'm basically taking, it's cut to the exact same size. So you can see when I place it next to each other, it forms this arch of the building, but you want to make sure that we can have that separating line. So for our perspective, I'm going to make sure that I come in and I'm just tracing again right along the outside, and I'm doing it right up against the top, so when it's coming down under these windows. So now you can see that we have this perspective of the building. And then for the perspective of the building that's facing us, again, I'm just going to go in and trace right along the top. The next part I'm going to do is I'm basically recreating what we did basically for these like kind of little top pieces of the building. So I'm placing that again. I've had it to be where it's exact. I'm just going to trace right along the edge so we can see how these are forming, and then create this exaggerated line. So now you can see we have the tops of the building. And I'm going to go in, and where each of my windows start, I'm going to create a line to separate, a line to separate. And then where I have my next windows, I'm also going to create, because it's creating a front-facing view for the perspective. So now we've created that for us as well. So what I want to do is kind of be able to define and create our street point of view or our street perspective. So I'm going to take our black and I'm going to align with how we have the angled perspective and bring that all the way down. So I'm basically aligning with my building. And then I'm just going to keep that line going through. And again, remember, there's no mistakes getting made at all in art. So if yours looks a little different than mine, that's totally okay. So now we basically have this street perspective, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to lightly rub back and forth, left to right, filling in. So now that I have that, I'm going to come back in with my white, and you can see by just rubbing over the top of it, we're creating a light gray. Now you can experiment with how you want to move this. So I'm going to go, I was going left to right. You can go front and back or back and forth. So this kind of helps create that busy street Now you want to make sure in between when you're layering or using oil pastels on top of each other that you make sure that you clean off your pastel, because what can happen is if you don't, it'll end up the next time that you use it. So you can see it's all nice and clean. So the next part that I want to do is we're going to be creating some of colored layers. So what I'd like to do is incorporate using our purple and going in and having that fill in to the windows, because we are going to go back over it with black, but I think it's really nice to kind of make sure that we've got those where we can clearly see them. And it kind of gives us some color as to what's going on in the inside of the building. So I'm going in through all my windows and I'm basically re-outlining my squares, and I'm going on a diagonal. So I'm having some nice texture that way. So I'm going to do this for all of these. Now for this window, what I'm going to do is actually break it down into like a 4 squares. So kind of have a little bit of the ability to have some of a window frame shine through. So you can see that I'm leaving some spacing with my paper here. Now again, if you want to fill it in and have it just be a full box, that's totally okay. Again, art is all about being different. It doesn't have to be the same. I think that's like sort of the beauty of it. And so then I'm also going in and filling in our doorway to get into the library. So now what I'd like to do is go over with yellow the basic outline of the building. I want to make sure that I'm showing you guys, and I'm going to make sure that my pastel is clean so we can make sure that we're seeing the building to be completely full in and kind of paint the picture of the story that we're wanting to create here. So I'm starting in the left-hand corner and I'm going left to right at a diagonal, and this time I'm not wanting any of my paper really to come through. Is outline with my orange. So I'm going to basically take that dividing line and outline it down the center, and then I'm going to go across. And I'm also going to do it a little bit down at the bottom here. You can see where we're hitting. We're going to come in and fill this in with grass, but right now it's good just to kind of have that be separate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline the right side of my windows to kind of give them some perspective. So I'm going over the top of my window and I'm doing it very thickly, moving left and right, back and forth. And I'm just going over the right side of my window. And then you can blow to get some of your extra oil pastels, because it's based on how hard you press what will be coming through. So there we go. We have some of the nice outline shape. Now, what I also want to do is, you can see we have some piping that's kind of at the top of our building. So I'm going to use our light brown, and I'm going to go back over where we have our thick line at the top, and I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. So we're going over our orange. So again, you can kind of see how this blending starts to occur. Now, the next part that I'm going to do is, again, fill in the left side of my building now. So the more that's at the perspective or on the slant of the street. So I'm going to do exactly how I did it in the kind of the first area of my drawing. I'm going to come in, I'm starting in the corners, I'm going over the tops. Make sure that you clean off, again, if you have anything that's on your oil pastel, it'll come through and end up in your drawing. So I'm going in and going around. So now that I've done my outline, I'm going to go back around again with my orange. So we're developing a little bit of a step process where I'm going to do my orange down the bottom of my piece. I'm going to do it up the side, and I'm going to do it over. So again, continuing to do that slant perspective. And then I'm going to go in, and we were doing it on the right for this side, but now I'm going to be doing it on the left to kind of articulate the shadow effect. So I'm doing that for each of the windows, and these are a little bit smaller, so I don't think it takes quite as much pressure to create. And then what I'm going to do is, for my door frame, I'm going to go over the left side, but I want to kind of make a nice little edge. So I'm pressing and I'm going back and forth continuously here. So we can see that for the perspective of the building. And again, I'm going to take that light brown, and over the top, I'm going to press really hard over the orange and kind of create that same kind of perspective. Now, what I want to do also is kind of complete the bottom half of our picture. So you can see here that we've incorporated grass. So I'm going to take, you can use your light brown, your light brown, your light green, and your dark green. And we're going to create using different types of textures. And I'm just going to be creating wiggle movements. And I'm going to be taking it up and down. It's okay if it goes a little bit over the window frame. But I'm creating this sense of creating a grass texture, and I'm starting with my dark green first, and I'm having it bump up against the edge of the road. So you can see that we've got some really nice, brightly illuminated colors. And then what I'm going to do is go back over it with my light green. And I'm kind of trying to fill in some of those areas where we're seeing the white paper, because our goal at the end of the piece is to not have as much white space, if any, be seen or shown through. So I did that with my light green. And then my last touch is going to be going over, I'm going to do it with a lighter. You can roll or press so you have an edge on your oil pastels, which is really nice. You can kind of create some points. So that allows you to see how much form or lightness. So you can see moving in that we have some really nice light brown textures being incorporated. So different type of line work can be used with pastels. So the next part that I want to do is kind of incorporate the top part of our roofing system. So I'm going to be using my orange, and I'm going to be going in basically the window, the wall space next to each of the windows. I'm going to be going in and making that orange. So you can see I'm pressing. Pressing. So we're filling in and creating these shadows against the top frames for our building. And then I'll be taking our light brown, and I'm gonna make sure I clean it because I got some green. And I'm gonna be going over the tops. Going over the tops here. The next part that I'd like to do is we have on this part, we have a way to be able to create basically showcasing how we have a top forming here. So we have different perspective here, but then we have something facing us. So we're gonna look at basically where we have our line, and I'm gonna create basically a triangle. So I'm gonna go where it is at the top, and using my dark brown, I'm gonna create a line that goes down and connects into my window. And then I'm gonna fill in this space with the brown. And I'm going to do the same on this side, the right-hand side of the window. And then I'm gonna take my orange and where we kind of have that slant, fill that in here. So we have some nice light and dark values coming through. The next part that I would like to do is incorporate some red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red and kind of put some outlines in through the top of the building. And I'm pressing hard because you can see how it creates like an etch mark into our oil pastels. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do some dark tones of red on the orange. Over it a little bit in those orange areas where we just did the red with our brown. So we're really creating some texture. Then what I'm going to do is where we kind of created this window space, I'm going to go back over that with brown as well and kind of create a cross for the top part of our window. So I know we kind of have our building kind of blending together right now, but we're going to go back and outline some of this in our black. So that will be coming in at the end, but you can see that we're kind of separating our color blocks right now to create what we need. What I'd like to do is go back down and work on creating some texture into our wall space. So what I'm going to do is actually take our white, make sure that it's nice and clean, and go over just in the left-hand corner, back and forth on the wall that's like kind of, it would be directly facing to us, and create some texture of having it be lighter. So you can see now we have a darker yellow and a lighter yellow, and it's not super strong, it's faint, but you can see how you can make things become lighter. And then again, I'm gonna do it a little bit in between. Oh, broke my oil pastel again. I'm just gonna do it a little bit. In between. Now I would like to use a little bit of my blue or my light green, whichever you would prefer. I'll probably start with a little bit of my light green, and I'm gonna create some cross hatching at the top of my building. So basically I'm doing a diagonal line going down, and I'm going all the way across. And then I go back and forth, and I'm creating like a cross hatching system. So we're creating a little bit of texture here because we've got buildings that have character in St. Augustine. So I did it a little bit with my light green. Now I'm gonna do the same thing with my blue. So we're creating some texture. And if you do it on a corner or a base, it'll create a little bit of different lines and cross hatches. And then I'm gonna bring a little of that blue too, just to see that it's like kind of getting reflected into my grass. So that's something that I'm just kind of seeing what I'm doing, and I'm making the decision as I'm going along to kind of carry that through. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do a little bit of my light green at the top of my building. I'm not trying to press too hard, make it any crazy, and I'm just kind of doing it at the top. And I'll go a little bit over it with the blue. Now I'm gonna do a similar technique, but I'm gonna be doing it with our light brown at the bottom of our building. So I'm doing a cross hatching symbol, and I'm like, if you go slow, it can create different textures based on compared if you go fast. So that's something that you can experiment on your own. What I'd like to do now is kind of go in and start making some edits and updates to our windows. So what I'm going to do is actually go in and do an outline over our purple with our black, and again, have it come over so you're seeing that purple come through. And I'm going left to right. I'm going to be doing these for all of them. I'm going to do the same here. Now I'm going to start outlining with my black to kind of create some diversity after I do my door, the most important part to enter in. And I'm going to go over a little bit of light over the orange so you can see it kind of defining it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go lightly down from my perspective drawing. So we're creating that divide. I'm going to go a little bit along the outside, and then I'm going to basically create a top and a bottom for that railing for both. So this is, again, really kind of making it highlighted, and I'm going to go back in and do some nice black lines on the inside. And then what I want to do is outline the top of our building. So I'm kind of going over the roofing. I'm going to go over our brown triangle that we made. I'm going to come back down and kind of create a little bit of our window system. And then have some line work here. Now I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth to create some texture for our roofing system with our black. And I'm going to come in and make sure we have some separating lines here as well. Now you can go in and do a little bit of texture into the roofing system, or you can leave it blank. But now you can see how we have like a really nicely defined window space. So the next part that I want to do is incorporate our sky. So again, what I'm going to do is utilize our blue or dark blue, and I'm going to be going in all the areas that we have left now with white. But we don't really want it to stay this dark blue color. Maybe you do. Maybe you want it to be a little bit of a more darker or like summer evening. But I'm going to come in with white after to kind of lighten some of these areas up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our white, and I'm going to go in the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to press really hard and go back and forth because I want to create a nice texture of having it become a little bit lighter. Now again, maybe you like it with the dark blue. Maybe you want to incorporate a different color. But I think we have like a really nice sky now. And then what we're gonna do is, so mine, I like, whoo, this is messy. But what I would actually like to do is, because we don't have a strong light blue, I'm gonna take this because I know that we have blue on the white. I would like to go in and incorporate a lighter blue.
So that's the white oil pastel, but it has the blue from, okay.
But if you can get a set that has a little bit of a lighter blue, but I'm going in basically with my white into all of my windows. And if I feel like for me, the blue's not really coming through, so I'm gonna just go in a little bit with the dark blue, just a little bit. So if you had a lighter blue pastel, that's what could be incorporated here, but I'm just going in with my white and my light blue. So you can see how all the layering effects really builds the piece and builds the work. Now for me, I think the last step really is writing public library. That's what I'd like to incorporate on this line of the wall. You can use stencils if you're not like, I don't like my regular handwriting, but I'm just gonna be going in with our brown. And again, there's not a right or a wrong. And I'd be trying to go in on a space that has a little bit less of like the blue or the green so people can really see it and I don't have to worry about blending. But I'm just gonna go in. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Public.
Well, thank you so much, Kasha. This looks so fantastic.
Now just remember, guys, you can do things at different sizes or different scalings and incorporating different colors, and things look different all the time. So again, just remember, if your piece doesn't look like mine, it's great, it's fabulous, it's yours. Thank you again to the Barbara K Foundation for allowing me to be able to teach these classes. I look forward to doing more with you guys in 2021, and I hope everyone has a great start to the new year.
Also, I want to mention, as part of St. John's Reads, we also did a tour of the original St. Augustine Public Library, which of course is now the St. Augustine Historical Society, and that tour premiered yesterday. So if you are interested in the history of this building that Kasha just drew, check that video out. Well, thank you again so much, Kasha. We had a lot of fun, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks again so much for watching. If you need help getting a copy of The Library Book by Susan Orlean, just ask anybody at your local library. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment on it, and share it. And if you make your own drawing, make sure to tag us on social media at SJCPLS on Facebook or hashtag I love SJCPLS on Instagram. Thanks again. We'll see you soon at the library.